What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here with The Quartering, reminding you that exclusivelygames.com is up and running with a lot of people in the forum, a lot of people in the Discord, lots of content, new news articles every day. Make sure you bookmark the site and check it out. Love to have you over here. So, interesting thing going on with Far Cry New Dawn that I wanted to cover, because if you've been following me kind of casually mentioning that I'm actually finally playing through Far Cry 5 and loving it, by the way. I can't imagine a worse driving experience in a game, but other than that, I'm having a blast. I'm a bit of a completionist, so I've got just one section left to finish tonight. Looking forward to jumping into New Dawn because I loved Far Cry 5 so much. Now, there was a little kerfuffle originally with some of the pictures you'd see here about getting woke. I don't know. I haven't played the game. I haven't seen too much. I saw that they basically have removed gender and allowing people just to pick body type, but that's a small kind of memeable thing as opposed to anything to really point out. The reviews are decent. When you look at Metacritic, it's sitting at a 73 with a user score of 3.4. Again, that is not great. But if you look at maybe OpenCritic, here you have a fair rating with top critics giving it a 70. Critic recommends only 52. And if you actually look at the sales have completely tanked for Far Cry New Dawn. Far Cry New Dawn sales were just 13% of Far Cry 5's original opening week total. Now, that is to say it is down 87% in comparison. Now, that is massively. Now, there are a couple of reasons for that. One, it's a spinoff. Two, we're comparing physical sales to physical sales. And the market is trending towards more digital. But people used that as a crutch to originally defend Battlefield 5. If you remember, Battlefield 5 being massively down, 50, 60% compared to Battlefield 1. And that was, of course, at the time, only comparing physical copies to physical copies. So all the Battlefield 5 defendants came in, rushing in to say, well, nobody buys physical copies anymore. This is why. Everything's fine. When we got the final numbers, though, Battlefield 5 was down several million copies to Battlefield 1. Now, the company still probably made billions from it, so you could call it a failure or not. But total sales, with Battlefield 5 between 13 and 14 million, with Battlefield 1 selling about 15 million. So down about 2 million copies, and you would have expected increase in sales, not... to sell the same is a loss. So you got to think that the overall projections, and I remember when this came out, EA's stock plummeted. I'm going to guess if they sold 15 million Battlefield 1 copies, projections were probably closer to 18 to 20 million for Battlefield 5. So they missed projections by many millions. So there is a correlation, I think, between physical copies being down, even if part of that reason is more people moving to digital. So we see with Far Cry 5 being 87% down, Far Cry 5 New Dawn, then you might say, well, it's just a spin-off. It's just an expansion. So obviously it's not going to sell as many copies as Far Cry 5. There's some validity to that. I don't know. You would think if the spin-off was so good, it would have actually increased the sales of Far Cry 5, which is available for like $15 right now. Excellent buy. I got about 40 hours in. Amazing amount of fun for $15. But when you look at Far Cry 4 spinoff, which was Primal, last week only sold 25% of what Primal sold. So 75% down compared to a similar expansion pack. Now, I thought Far Cry 5, the color scheme, the fact that it's kind of the same map, the fact that it's only an expansion, I don't think should have hurt it, especially since they priced it accordingly. They priced it at $40, not $60. Maybe a bigger part of it was kind of a busy release week We had Crackdown, we had Metro Exodus, we had the Origin access, at least, of Anthem. The full worldwide release, I think, is coming this week. But it's interesting. You know, when you look at it, you could say all of these things being down massively. It was still the #1 released game that week, barely edging out Metro Exodus. Now, Metro Exodus is viewing this as a huge success. I think they did very well. In spite of probably losing some PC sales, they did very well last week. Crackdown 3, I don't think it's fair because, you know, it came out, but it was also free with Xbox Game Pass. So when you look at the sales, you know, it wasn't even in the top 10. Why would it be? If a lot of people have Game Pass, they have no reason to go buy the game. New Dawn being just 13% of Far Cry 5, I think, is a complete failure. When you look at Far Cry 5 New Dawn retail sales, down 86% from Far Cry 5. Early sales report Far Cry New Dawn is having a rough time at retail. Sales down significantly over both the game's direct predecessor Far Cry 5 and the previous spin-off Far Cry Primal. These early figures purely count physical sales, but with the direct comparisons against previous titles looking so weak, it seems that Ubisoft is running into Far Cry fatigue. And there could be some of that. I don't know. I'm just finishing Far Cry 5, and a good friend of mine got into it about 2 weeks ago, so we've done a bit of co-op. He got Far Cry New Dawn, and he's already going back to like his third playthrough of Far Cry 5 because he just likes it so much better. That's probably not a good indication. He is what I would call a normie gamer, and in a lot of ways I am too. I prefer a good story mode. I mean, he liked Just Cause 4 a lot, even with bugs and all. He's not hypercritical, but he told me, in a conversation I had with him last night when we were doing a bit of Far Cry 5 co-op, which I have a complaint that there's not a hard enough level setting for that. Like, it's too easy when you co-op, even two competent players. Everything's way too dang easy. But regardless, he was telling me that, you know, it didn't have a lot of soul and it felt tedious and the story wasn't great. It's hard to say. You know, I'm going to have a direct opinion of it in, by this weekend, because I'm going to finish Far Cry 5 probably tonight. New Dawn's first week of sales are down 86.5% from last year's Far Cry 5. As GameIndustry.biz reports. You wouldn't expect New Dawn to do quite as well as a full-numbered game in the series, but it's also sold just over a quarter of what Primal did in the same time frame. These purely sales at UK retail, where New Dawn sold 60% on PS4, 39% on Xbox One, and only 1% on PC. That is really interesting. Only 1% of total sales on PC for Far Cry. That's shocking. I didn't think it would be that big of a disparagement. Or discrepancy. Wow, what do you think about that? As you'd expect without digital units accounted for. Oh, well, that's why. There aren't really any boxed copies for PC of Far Cry New Dawn out there. That would make sense. Okay, that would make sense. While increasing digital adoption certainly means physical sales are less important than they used to be, the adoption hasn't increased enough over the past few years to explain why Far Cry New Dawn dropping this hard against its predecessors. One possibility is release date. New Dawn launched on Friday instead of a Tuesday in the previous game, so there's less time for sales to accrue. That's relevant. Even with all that in mind, New Dawn still topped the charts last week, just ahead of Metro Exodus. Even though Exodus is behind in a disappointing New Dawn's debut, it's still up 50% from Last Light in 2013. That is excellent. Congratulations to the Metro team. Wish you wouldn't have put PC on Epic. Though with it being physical retail sales, you can probably attribute that to higher profile console release. In our Far Cry New Dawn review, Julian finds out the game's new complications add too much busy work. Other critics, as collected in our score roundup, broadly aggregate alongside our 7 out of 10 rating that there are a significant number of outliers both above and below that. It's a solid game by most accounts, not especially impressive one. Since Ubisoft has been building the same formula since Far Cry 3 in 2013, it looks like at some point we're at the point of diminishing returns. I mean, that could be it. I mean, You have, at worst, shockingly bad, at best, a complete disappointment, shameless microtransaction, money grab, perhaps the worst Far Cry games, which is saying a lot. I mean, most of these people seem to like it. 10, 10, 8, 5. Good God. Fallout 4, Metro Exodus piles all the poop, all of them. I truly believe I could complete this game in a couple of hours. It's not really bad either. I love the Far Cry series, but it just feels so rushed, pointless. A step back in every way. And please do not have... And please do not have Wildman as the antagonist. It simply doesn't work. Well, I don't know about that. That's not gonna. Yeah, that's gonna be outlined by many gamer articles. Ubisoft mocks its decreasing player base once more. One of the things that surprised me, not at the center of reviews with Far Cry 5, which was the reason I refunded after an hour of play, was the brain dead AI. Yeah, the AI isn't great. Finished Far Cry 3s to have reference before playing New Dawn. The enemies are 10 IQ smarter points than in 5, although the friendly AI is laughable. What is this? Colonial Marines? Slapping RPG-ish elements into an abused franchise. I don't know what anyone says, but gosh darn, Crosshair is misplaced. The enemies are now bullet sponges, which shows points a la Destiny. And it's a total grind. Frequently reminding you to drop your cash for some currency or whatnot. Graphics are, quote, nice, I think, from an artistic view. However, in 2019, the standard to use the most ridiculous color palette available. This is supposedly a post-apocalyptic game, but to me, Ubisoft's take on Super Weenie Hut Juniors before Rage 2, they got to milk that cows. Know what I'm saying? It's a shame. Refund it. Interesting. Title is totally trash. I don't like its new Far Cry concept. I love 1, 3, and 4, but Downhill began with 5. The quest design is average. No story. It feels like an MP loot game, not a single-player game. Interesting. You know, it seems like people either really love it or really hate it. You're not seeing a lot of 5s. You're just not. You're seeing either a 9 or 10, which is probably from fanboys, and 0s, which are people that are probably just super hateful of it. I mean, here's a 7. I think I've never been this split about what I think about a game. Some things are really good. Some things are horrible. Some of the few annoying bugs from Far Cry 5 are still present, while the awful progression from Far Cry 5 isn't, in the same way at least. I don't really care about the story or narrative in Far Cry games. I do. Me, as a player. I like story modes. I prefer a silent custom character that can make his own story, but still, the, quote, twins must be the most boring, one-sided, generic villains ever put in the game. I almost deleted the game at the start, as you don't select a gender, you select body type, now in Ubi games. They did this in The Division as well. Probably just going forward. The weapon system is with the old post-apocalyptic Road Warrior look. Could have been great if we were one able to modify them instead of crafting pre-made custom weapons. That's one cool thing about Metro. The game world actually looks quite cool, but it sounds they could still use the 300 meters plus and things randomly respawn. I can't give it a 5 as well. Killing it is fun in the game, nor can I give it more than a 7 since they dropped the ball so many times. Well, it's interesting. You know, you're not see. I think really the sales of Far Cry New Dawn are more like, I don't know, just, you know, it wasn't really super hyped at the Game Awards. I didn't see an absolute ton of marketing. And, you know, the antagonists, I mean, that's probably a personal take. It's not why I wouldn't buy a game. If the antagonist is bad in general, like we can see with Anthem, that's probably something worth talking about. But not a good start for Far Cry. Probably a bit of fatigue, probably a bit of under-marketing, probably a bit of being too woke. But as we've seen with Battlefield 5, you can't ignore these physical sales, and it's something to talk about. I'll give you my full take on the game after I'm finished with it. Will probably be this weekend. Sounds like it's pretty quick. But in the meantime, make sure you keep up to date on all the latest news and articles over on exclusivelygames.com. Appreciate you checking it out. We'll talk to you again real soon.